and welcome to part one of our interview with legend Allan Clarke. Your interviewer is the Gabbie Cabbie. SRBMedia.
Good evening, Alan, and welcome all to My 70s with a 70s legend and icon, Mr. Allan Clarke. How's things, Al?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Most people seem to think that you are a Yorkshireman, but you're an adopted Yorkshireman because your life began in the Black Country in 1946 on the 31st of July, didn't it?
That's correct, yes. I'm a Black Country boy, but I've been adopted by the Leeds United fans, so everybody thinks I'm a Yorkshireman. But I've got a Yorkshire son. He was born 1971 when I played for Leeds in my house at Collingham near Weatherby, where I lived. But as you say, I'm a Black Country boy.
And you've also got four brothers that were also professional footballers. So there was five lads, all pro players, a little bit like Bill Shankly.
Yes, I'm the third eldest of Mum and Dad's 7 children. I've got 2 sisters, 4 brothers, and I'm the third eldest of the 7. And as you say, my mum and dad's, all the sons all play professional football, which is some record really. They're going about the Charltons and the Melbournes and what have you, but there's 5's a bit of a record, I think.
Now, where did you get your football skills from? Was your mum or was your dad very sporty? Where's the DNA with sports and football in your family?
Well, my dad was a long-distance lorry driver, but he played football in the Welsh League for Bangor City.
Oh, right.
And I thought that was where the football came, but I think the football did come from my mum's real dad. I mean, my real granddad, who I never met, he played for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Right.
He did, yes, and I think that's where the football comes from. But as I was told as growing up, my granddad left my grandma for another woman, and obviously my mum was brought up by a stepdad, and it's ironic really because my wife's mum, she had a stepdad to bring her up and my mum and my mother-in-law spoke very highly of the stepdad. They couldn't have had a better dad if it had been the real dad but my real granddad, my mum's real dad, he played for Wolverhampton Wanderers, and I often wondered when I turned out at Molineux for Fulham, when I played there for Fulham at Molineux or Leicester, I was there for a year, and obviously Leeds United. I often wonder when I ran out at Molineux if my granddad was in the crowd and
wow.
I often wondered about that. He could have been. I don't know whether he was dead or what, but he could have been but that was his fault really. You know what I mean?
Did he play many games for Wolves, and what era was it, Alan, that he played there?
It must have been obviously before Second World War started.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how many games he played, but obviously he did play for Wolverhampton Wanderers, my real granddad.
And what was his name? Because we'll research that.
My mum's name was Reese.
Okay.
So, I just imagine he must have been Reese, but that's what I was told anyway. He played for Wolverhampton Wanderers, and that obviously is where the football comes from.
And his first name was?
I don't know.
Oh, right, okay. Right.
They might have told me, but I forgot it.
Yeah, okay. We'll have a look into that. Your footballing journey started then at Walsall, didn't it? You went there as a 16-year-old lad in 1963.
No, I left school 61 when I was 15.
Oh, okay.
And obviously, the week before I did leave school, I was actually going to, they called them ground staff lads in them days.
Yeah.
I was actually going to Aston Villa, who were in the top league, First Division. Joe Mercer was the manager, and my last year at school, they used to send me two tickets to go and watch the home matches during my last year at school. So my dad and I, every home match at Villa Park, we used to go And about a week before I was ready to leave school, I came home from school and I said to my mum and dad, I says, I'm not going to Aston Villa. I mean, during that last year as well, I used to go training with the first team squad at Aston Villa, and they had like Jerry Hitchens, who played for England. He went abroad to Italy. He was a striker, like myself. They had big Nigel Sims in goal. They had some good players like Aston Villa. I used to go every holiday. In the last year, I used to train with them, like. But people, what I'm going to say now, they can't believe what I'm going to say, like, because I came home from school and I said, I'm not going to Aston Villa. Dad, I'm going to go to Walsall, because when I left school in 1961 at 15, I was only 4'5" high.
Yeah.
Not 5'4", 4'5", and I don't know. They used to call me Tiny Clarke when I played for my school and South East Staffordshire, my district side, and my county, Birmingham County. I was only like, they used to call me Tiny Clarke, being so small. So I went to Walsall as a ground staff lad rather than Aston Villa.
And then you progressed into the first team, didn't you? That would be 1963, I'm guessing. You played 72 games and scored 41 goals. That is an unbelievable amount.
In the third division, yes.
Yeah, but again, for a young kid, that is an unbelievable amount of goals. It's almost, well, it's over one every other game, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. Obviously, I made my debut at, I was 16 and a half. And, but when I did leave school at 15, Walsall, they just got promotion from the third division to the second division.
Yeah.
And, but obviously, my first year there, they got relegated from the second division because obviously they're not a big club, they ain't got much money. And they got relegated back to the third division. So I'm in like my second season. And when I was 16 and a half, I made my first team debut. And the manager at the time, he played me 5 or 6 matches, but obviously I'm feeling the strain, so he took me out to, you know, to give me a bit of a rest, like. But obviously he knew I'd had you know, played in the first team. He knows I wanted to play more. And at 17, I was probably their number one striker. So instead of waiting until I was 18 to sign me professional, they signed me professional at 17.
Yeah.
And as you say, I was banging goals in the third division. But obviously, I was ambitious. I wanted to play in the top league, which is the first division. And in 1966, I met my wife, she's from Nottingham, and only girlfriend I ever had, and we met at Margate when we were both 17. And I knew when I met her, that's the girl I'm going to marry, which is ironic, really. And we'd arranged to get married on her birthday in 1966, which was in the close season. Her birthday is June the 11th, and we got married on June the 11th. So I'd be still 19 because I was like, my birthday's in the July. But I had my break to get into the first division, and I would have loved probably a West Midland club like Wolverhampton Wanderers, West Bromwich Albion, Aston Villa, Birmingham City, big clubs. I would have loved them to come in for me, but I had to go out to London, to Fulham, who gave me a chance, like, and I'm very grateful to Fulham Football Club for giving me the chance to play in the first division.
It is quite incredible because when you do look at football and, you know, you look back, we look forward as well, but when your career's finished, you look back at your career, and when you look at football, you probably, well, I don't think there's any probably, you're the greatest central striker that's ever come out of the West Midlands. And we missed you.
Well, I don't know about that. Like, I mean, there's a fella called Duncan Edwards, who's a Dudley boy.
Yeah, but he wasn't a centre forward, was he, Duncan? He was a left half.
I'll tell you a story about him if you want. But
please do, Alan.
There's a when I went into management after my career finished, I went into management. I had 12 years of it. But there was a lad who used to sort of work for me at Barnsley Football Club and Scunthorpe. They called Eddie Edwards. He was the youth team coach at Sheffield United. Okay. Where Mick Jones, who we formed that partnership at Leeds in the great side, who came from Sheffield United, Mick. but Eddie Edwards was youth team coach, and Eddie often told me, because you ask people, who was the greatest footballer ever? Well, you always get one in every sport. Now, for me, Pelé, the Brazilian, he's the greatest footballer that ever was.
Yeah.
You always get one. But if you ask the same question to Eddie Edwards, you'd say to Eddie, who was the greatest footballer you've ever seen? He would say Duncan Edwards.
Yeah.
And he says he was a fully grown man at 15, 16 years of age. And apparently, Eddie was telling me, he's in charge of Sheffield United's youth team, and the FA Youth Cup, which is equivalent to the FA Cup, you know, with the professional clubs, but with the youth, it's equivalent to that. So Eddie says they drew Man United at Bramall Lane. And Jimmy Murphy, who's Matt Busby's assistant, he was in charge that night. Anyway, they actually drew with Man United at Bramall Lane, Sheffield United's youth team. So obviously they're having a replay about a week or a fortnight later at Old Trafford. So Jimmy Murphy went to see Eddie, and he said, Eddie, he says, your lads have done you proud tonight, but he says, when we play the replay a week or a fortnight, he says, you haven't got a prayer to beating us. He said, because we've got a young man, and he says, a young lad called Duncan Edwards, he was 16, he says, he's a wing half, but he says, when we play at Old Trafford, I'm going to play him at centre forward. He got 4 goals that night. A great story.
Great players can play in any position, I guess.
That is correct.
And similar to John Charles, you know, at Leeds United and at Cardiff, when he went over to Juventus,
yes.
John was a centre half, and then when
yes.
Jackie Charlton come into the Leeds team, he moved up to play centre forward and was probably one of the greatest players at centre half and at centre forward was John Charles.
That's correct. That's correct.
So you're at Fulham, you're banging goals in again, 45 goals in 86 games. Vic Buckingham was your manager, and you're a West Bromwich Albion supporter, and one of your first early memories is of Vic Buckingham's team winning the FA Cup in 1954, wasn't it? That
is correct. As I say, 1954, my dad bought us our first television, and BBC used to sort of cover the FA Cup final every year, like from Wembley. And you can imagine, there's an 8-year-old boy. I got up Saturday morning, cup final day, and the final that year in '54 was West Bromwich Albion against Preston North End. Yeah. And as you say, being a West Midland boy, I was a West Brom fan. I think I liked the blue and white striped strip, like, you know. But I didn't go to the Hawthorns very often from Shorty because it was 2 or 3 bus rides away. I used to go up to Molyneux in the 50s to watch Wolverhampton Wanderers, and to be fair, Wolverhampton Wanderers in the 50s, they were like the number one team. Like, they had tremendous players like Bert Williams, Billy Wright, he got the first 100 caps for England, Jimmy Mullen, little Johnny Hancock, he had a shot as hard as Peter Lorimer, who played with me at Leeds United. Great players, and as I say, they were a fabulous team to watch. But as I say, I watched West Bromwich Albion in '54, and Ronnie Allen scored the winning goal from the penalty spot. And I can remember the captain, Len Millard, going up to the guest of honour to receive the trophy off the guest of honour. And I thought to myself, well, when I grow up, I'd like to play in an FA Cup final. And as I say, I did. I played through my career in 4 FA Cup finals, but I only ever won it once. But I won the big one, as I call it, the Centenary Cup final, when the Queen was there to present it to our captain, Billy Bremner.
I remember it very well, and we're going to talk about that wonderful diving header from a Mick Jones cross a little bit later. We're still going to stay with Fulham a bit, because whilst at Fulham, you were playing with the great Johnny Haynes, the first £100 a week football player, and Bobby Robson was central midfield as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, and George Cohen, who was the right back, who was obviously played in the World Cup winning team in '66. They had a nice mixture of youth and experience. There was actually three lads just broke into the side before I joined them. There's a lad called John John Dempsey, a centre half.
Yep.
There was a lad called Les Barrett, who was a left winger.
Yep.
And a lad called Stevie Earle, who was up front. They were similar age to me. They broke into the side a few months before I joined them on transfer deadline, which was middle of March in 1966. And but when you look at Johnny Haynes, him and Bobby Robson were our two central midfield players. They're both about 34 at the time, coming towards the end of the career, where I'm 19, trying to make a name for myself in the top league. And obviously Johnny Haynes was the king, first £100 a week footballer, captain England at all levels, wonderful, wonderful player. And I can remember meeting my new teammates on the Friday morning, and Fulham in them days didn't have a training ground, but we trained on Craven Cottage on the Friday, and then you'll never believe this though, the next day we were playing Leeds United at Ellen Road.
Yeah.
And I can remember Johnny Haynes, the manager says, right lads, off you go and get a bath, Anyway, if you've ever been to Fulham where you come out in the corner,
yep,
which they still do now, remember Johnny Haynes saying, Alan, come here, son. So obviously, whatever he does, he's the king, and he got 3 balls, and he says, right, I'm going to take 3 corner kicks. So he said, tell me, the first one, he says, what part of the goal would you like me to hit? I says, near post. So I put the ball down. He had about 2 strides backwards, and he came up, bit of bend on it. He hit the near post. I was really impressed with that. So he says, right, the second one, what part of the goal would you like me to hit? So he did exactly. I says, crossbar. He did exactly the same again, bit of bend on it. 2 out of 2. He says, right, the last one, he said, then we better get a bath because the boss will be after us. So I says, near post, and he got 3 out of 3. And when I think back, Johnny Haynes was so good for me because I'm a striker, he's a midfield player.
Yep.
And obviously I knew my runs out, to get away from centre half and what have you, defenders. And he'd make this pass, and all I had to do was put it in the back of the net. I know it's easier said than done,
yeah,
but he was good for me, John, in that respect. But what a wonderful, wonderful player he must have been in his prime, But he spent all his career with Fulham, And I believe there's a statue outside Craven Cottage, which I'm looking forward to see, because I'm going there on Saturday when they play Leeds United.
One of the greats and one of the all-time greats ever to put a football kit on was Johnny Haynes, nicknamed the Maestro. And in Jimmy Greaves' humble opinion, the best England team was in 1962 when Johnny Haynes was in the middle of the park. And I think many older people would also hold that up because Johnny Haynes was different class. But Fulham were coming to, like you said, 34 and 34 apiece, Robson and Haynes. And Fulham are a club that's never really pushed on, if we're absolutely honest. And you wanted to play at the top level. Leicester City come calling. How did that move come about? Because Sir Matt wanted you as well, didn't he?
Yeah, man. Well, Bobby Robson, I played with Bobby about 15, 18 months, and then he retired.
Yeah. And
he gave me a lot of good advice, did Bobby. And I thought, and he thought he had a job abroad, but nothing materialised from it. But we were struggling at Fulham, as it always was. They weren't a club with big money, or if you like, and it was a smashing club. But for me, they didn't seem ambitious enough. I think they were quite happy. This is the impression I got. They were quite happy to stay in the first division. Well, I'm sorry. Your football career goes quickly now. It wasn't about money, as far as I'm concerned. I wanted to win a trophy, so as you win a medal.
Yep.
Then by the time you end your career, you say, well, that's what I won as a professional football player.
Yep.
And they gave me the impression they were quite happy just to stay in the first division, but I wanted more, like. So I remember Bobby having me in his office, and it looks as if we were going to get relegated that season, and he went, Man United, he said, although I want to keep you, he says, if we get relegated, but he says, if I get the right offer, I'll let you go, which was very good of him, because he says, I know how hard you've worked to get in the first division. Yeah. So a few weeks later, he has me in, and he says, Man United has offered a British record transfer fee of £150,000, which was a lot of money in them days. I mean,
yes.
You look at football today, it's not even a week's wage today. They earn more than that in a week.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of money in them days, so I was living, my wife and I were living in Chesington in Surrey when I played for Fulham. And he said, Matt Busby and Jimmy Murphy are coming down on the train from Manchester, so if you drive up to King's Cross and meet him off the train, like. So I did that. And everybody in the world knew Matt Busby and Jimmy Murphy. And I saw the train coming, like, and he pointed to the taxi rank, and we went and got a taxi. And I saw this taxi, this Cockney taxi man, like, he recognised Matt Busby and Jimmy Murphy, but he didn't know me. I'd be 21 at the time.
Yeah. And
he said, just drive around London. So he says, we'd like you to sign for Man United, Alan. I says, I will, Mr. Busby. And they'd got Charlton Law and Best at the time then. So anyway, we come back, and they catch the train back to Manchester. I drive back home to my house in Chesington. And about a week later after that, Bobby has me in his office, and he says, Leicester City's coming with the same bid. So on cup final leave, they used to have like a cup final rehearsal match. It would be England against young England, under 23s.
Yeah.
Well, I was playing for the under 23s against the world champions at Highbury. And Bobby says, the chairman of Leicester's coming to the match. So after the match, when you have a bath and got changed, go into the reception at Highbury, and he'll come and see you, like. So played the game. I actually scored a couple of goals that night against the world champions in the 23s, and I'd had a bath, went into the reception. I waited 20 minutes. I got fed up because I didn't know what the chairman of Leicester looked like. He knew what I looked like, but after 20 minutes, I got in my car at Ivy and I drove back to Chesington. And my wife says, I says, I don't know. I says, I got fed up after 20 minutes. So my phone went within 20 minutes of getting in the house. This is Friday evening. And it's the chairman. He says, where are we? I said, well, I waited, like, but I got fed up. He said, well, can I come and see you? I said, yes, you can. So he was staying near King's Cross Station. And he eventually got to our house. And he says, right, I'm catching the 9:30 train back to Leicester tomorrow. Would you and your wife, Margaret, come and meet our manager, Matt Gillis? I said, yes, we will. So we caught the train to Leicester, got to Filbert Street. I met Matt Gillis. And I thought, I can play for you, pal. So, I mean, when I meet somebody for the first time, I either like you or I don't. I'm not saying I dislike Matt Busby.
Yeah.
But I thought I can play for this guy, and I signed a 2-year contract there and then. So at 21, I turned down Man United.
So it was just a simple fact that you really connected with the Leicester City manager, and you actually wanted to play for him, for Leicester, right, rather than Manchester United.
That's right. Yeah.
And to be fair, a great move, because you got to the FA Cup final in 1969, didn't you? But the manager had lost his job during the season, and you didn't particularly get on well with the incumbent manager, did you?
No, I think that sold Gordon Banks, the goalkeeper, to Stoke before I signed for them. Because obviously they've got a young lad called Peter Shilton, and they couldn't hold him back. Like, and they had a similar team to what Fulham had, where they got youth and experience. But as you say, halfway through the season, we're having a good cup run, but we're struggling in the league.
Yeah. And
the board of directors, typical, go and sack Matt Gillis' assistant, Bert Johnson. And with that, Matt Gillis resigned on the strength of that.
Yeah.
I actually went round his house to ask him to change his mind, but he wouldn't. He's a man of principles and morals, and replaced him with a fellow called Frank O'Farrell,
Yep.
Irishman, and we didn't see eye to eye from day one. And we got to the cup final, and the day before the cup final, he actually pulled me to one side, and we were playing Manchester City, and they had that forward line of Summerby, Colin Bell, Franny Lee, Neil Young, and Coleman, the left winger. Great forward line.
Yeah.
And obviously they're favourites to beat us, but he says to me the day before, he said, I'm going to play in midfield tomorrow, Alan. Well, there's only an Irishman can do that. But anyway, and from that'd be 60, 68, 69. It'd be 69. I joined less than the 68. It'd be 69. And they introduced where they'd have all the national pressmen and what have you. They voted to the Man of the Match award, and there's like a trophy presented to whoever Man of the Match. Anyway, we lost 1-0, but all the journalists voted me Man of the Match, like on the losing side, which I don't think it's happened before on the losing side, but they voted for me to be Man of the Match, like. So obviously from the disappointment of not winning the cup, at least I got that like in the act, like.
You also got the dream move as well. You joined the league champions Leeds United in 1969. How did that move come about, Al?
Well, it came about at Leicester. Obviously, I played in my first cup final, which would be 69.
Yep.
And then straight after the cup final, I went with England. We toured South America because a year later we're going to defend the World Cup in Mexico. We won in 66. And as you say, Leeds were champions. I came back, and Leeds United offered another British record of 165,000. So I brought the British record transfer fee twice within the space of 12 months. And the gaffer and the chairman, and when I say the gaffer, you know what I'm on about, don't you?
Mr. Reevey.
Yeah, because I call him I would never call him by his name, because I call him the gaffer because he was the gaffer, and that's the respect I had for him. And I've always said as well, like, through my career, I've played for two of the greatest managers the world's ever seen.
Yeah.
That's for Gaffer and Alf Ramsey, England, won us the World Cup.
Yep.
Two great managers. Probably not given the credit they deserve, really, but they do from people like myself. But anyway, I was the gaffer and the chairman came to my house in Leicester, and I was on £100 a week that year at Leicester. They told me I was the highest paid player because they paid the British record transfer fee for me, but I was on £100 a week. Anyway, I could have asked to double my wages, like, so the gaffer comes to my house and he said, he's obviously done his own work. He says, how much do you earn at Leicester? I said, I'm on £100 a week. And he said, well, how much do you want to come to Leeds, like? And as I say, I could have asked to double my wages, but I asked for £10.
Yeah.
Just £10 extra, 110. He says to me, I can't give you that, son. He says, all my players are on the same wage. Who was I to disbelieve the gaffer? I said, give me that contract. I signed a 2-year contract for the same wage.
Yeah.
I don't think players of today would do that. But I actually wanted to play for Leeds United.
Now, what a move that was, because anybody that knows the football and anybody that's honest with their assessment, when you look back at British football, during that period of 1965 to 1974,
yes,
Leeds United were the greatest team in Great Britain and arguably the greatest team in the world. Runners up 5 times, won the championship twice.
Yes.
We're in 4 FA Cup finals. We're in a League Cup final. We're in a Cup Winners' Cup final. we're in two Fairs Cup finals, and we're in a European Cup final. My word, when you look at that, that is incredible.
And every one of us in that team were all internationals.
Yeah. It was
an international team.
It was phenomenal. Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, carry on.
No, 1970 then, 69-70 season was your first season. You got to the FA Cup final where you played Chelsea. It was the first replay for many, many seasons. I've got an idea. 1912 rings a bell. It was a hell of a long time that we hadn't seen a replay in the cup final. It went to Old Trafford.
Well, they didn't have the replay at Wembley. We went to Old Trafford, as you
Exactly, say. Yeah. And Everton picked you for the championship. So in 1970, you were actually going for the double.
We were going for the treble in 1970 because obviously they were league champions. And as you call the Champions League today, in my day, it was called the European Cup, which is still the same trophy as the Champions League. The only difference is to play in the European Cup, you have to be champions of your country.
Yep.
Today, the European Cup, i.e. Champions League, you can finish third or fourth and still play in the European Cup.
Yep.
All down to money.
Yep.
But a lot harder in my day to win the European Cup than it is today.
Oh, 100%. As you said, you had to be the champions of England to be in there. And
you had to be champions of your country to play in the European Cup.
Exactly. And you played Celtic, didn't you, in the semi-final?
Oh, we went for the league and for the European Cup, and we went for the FA Cup. Now, we finished runners-up in the league. We finished, got to the semi-final of the European Cup against Glasgow Celtic.
Yeah.
And we lost the FA Cup replay to Chelsea. Now, we played a total, my first season, we played a total of about 72, 76 matches.
Yeah.
Now, our gaffer always wanted his best 11 every match. And grandmas and granddads can name the great Leeds United side from Gary Sprague to Eddie Gray, the left winger. They can go through it now.
Yep.
Now, we played, as I say, 72, 76 matches, runners up in this and that, never won anything, but you never heard our gaffer and you never heard any one of his players moaning and groaning, well, we're playing too many matches. Yep. We just got on with the next game or the next season. Understand what I'm saying?
But when you come runners up, you were a shade away from winning the league. For instance, in 1970-71 season, the season after, it was that game at Ellen Road where there was the offside goal and Jeff Astle scored it. In 1972, the season after, again going for a double and also playing in Europe as well. So arguably, for about 5 years, Leeds were going for a double and a treble. It was phenomenal, the success of Leeds United, wasn't it? With almost the same players as well that played in every game.
If you think about from 1967 to 74, we were probably top league in the world, as you say. And when you look, I mean, we've just actually from 67 to 74. I don't know whether you've heard about it, but the Leeds City Council have actually honoured us, the Gaffers team. They are all been given the freedom of Leeds City. We've been given the freedom of the city. And I think that's the first team ever to have won the freedom of the city. Which is obviously, we're very proud of that. The only thing with that is that I'd have liked it to have come earlier when the gaffer and Billy and Paul Maley was alive, but obviously it's a great honour to be given the freedom of Leeds City Centre by the Leeds City Council.
It certainly is, and I have to say, long overdue as well, because I always think that the best way to market any city is by the football club, and Leeds United, if they go on to play another 100 years, will not get a better team than what they had.
They'll never have a squad of players, ever.
No, I don't think so.
In the lifetime, I mean, my grandson's 24.
Yeah.
Leeds United fanatic. But even in his lifetime, they will never, ever have a squad of players like that either. Ever, ever. It's a one-off, that. It's a one-off.
SRBMedia.